X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. Wait, you're not Aaron, and you're not Mike. Who are you?
I'm a much worse looking person that tries to handicap horses. I'm Magic. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, good. How are you? I just want to thank you real quick. But we don't have too much time. I know you have an obligation, but it is only 7:30 your time, so I do appreciate you coming on. The hat looks great. The outfit looks great. Let's just jump right into it. Aaron's kind of done exactas, things like that, but we're going to have two pick four tickets for you today here on the show. It's interesting, Magic, we were talking real quick on Twitter. There's no pressure at all. 2 days in a row of winning. The last time you were on, we both struggled, so I'll leave it at that. But there's no room for mess ups on my end and your end. It's been great. We're going to recap yesterday, and I'll do that real quick. I'll scroll the tickets, both of our tickets at the bottom. I will also screen share some of the entries for you guys, so you can kind of play along, look at your own PPs, things like that. I believe we are good to go. We are. So let's hop right into it. Real quick, as we kind of start race 7, I'll kind of introduce it real quick. And Magic, you kind of lead me off here. It's claiming 16,000 for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward, going 5 furlongs on the turf. I kind of saw this to be a competitive race right out of the jump.
Yeah, you got an interesting field here, and in a couple of these races, it's Friday, so you're not going to have your big 10, 12 horse fields all throughout the card. But this is one of those races that if you have strong opinions in any one leg of this part, I go short there and then go deeper where you feel less confident. So that kind of affected how I handicapped this one. This one, I actually did go, this is the shortest leg for me. I'm going to start off with the 2, Fightress. A suitable class drop for this horse down to the 16K level. Was at the 20K level. Now, it was a non-winners of 3 lifetimes, so a little bit of a restriction there. Now she's facing open claimers, but this isn't a big group of world beaters. She had been an allowance optional claimant company for a long time. She's never gone down to this level since she's been in this barn. They claimed her for 16K over a year ago, so she's back down to this level. The big thing for me, for why I love this horse, why the hell is Irad Ortiz Jr. riding? He's never ridden this horse. He's never ridden for this barn. Why is he on this horse? That to me tells me that this horse has probably got a really great shot here. So she's got a lot of good speed. She's 5 years old, so I know that she's battle tested, 22 starts. She's pretty consistent. I know that's something that you like too. She's got 2 wins and 4 tries at Gulfstream Park on the turf, and is 2 for 13 with 5 for 13 on the board in the money. So that's why I like her. You used her too, right?
Yeah, I use Fightress also. I'll be honest. I completely agree with your point. If you have a strong opinion, press it. If you don't, you can go kind of my angle where it's like, all right, I'll just kind of take a bunch of the top choices and hope, well, I would say a survive and advance situation. I do like the 2 Fightress. I had that horse third. The top horse I kind of had was Aficionado. Obviously, there's a ton of turf pedigree there, but it's interesting. She's going to cut back in distance. I think this is a nice move for her. She's done this before. It was really awful. It was a long time ago. I just kind of think that this is a move that she's shown some speed going longer, and she's not the only one that's making a cutback necessarily. She is going to face tough turf sprinters, so it's going to be really difficult to get the lead. But Magic, you kind of real quick tell me, I don't know if there's any horse that's like, I got to get to the lead. I got to be up front. And I wouldn't be surprised if Aficionado has a late kick as opposed to some of these other horses if they're going for it. That's the horse I kind of picked out and said, I really like the cutback in a field that's wide open.
Yeah, I went back and forth with her. This is the second horse that I used. It just ended up going too deep on this leg. There wasn't a lot of speed, and there aren't not a lot of world beaters in here. I think if you can get like a mid 70s, low 70s buyer, that's going to be good enough to win this race. And the 2 and the 5, they've both done it. They're not the highest buyers, which is a little concerning. But for this horse, Again, this is a big class drop. I'm sorry, this is the second time the 16K level. So before that, she was running in the Claiming Crown Tiara, much higher price tags for a lot of her career. It is interesting because it's only 5 furlongs, and you need a lot of speed at Gulfstream Park. But I think she's got good speed. That she won't be on the lead, but I think she can sit off. And then if there is a speed duel that happens, if it starts to melt down, if a horse like the 6 just goes balls to the walls crazy and doesn't have, can only go 4.5 furlongs like that, I think putting the blinkers on the 5 is going to be a good move. I also think this horse just might show a lot more speed than she's ever shown on paper because of the blinkers and because we're adding Amicio Jaramillo. I mean, this is a very aggressive jockey. In my opinion, this is the best jockey that's been on this horse since she's been in America. So she's got that going for her. Juan Avila's 20% right now at the meet. He's 15 for 30, 50% in the money. And speaking of that, this horse is 9 for 14 career in the money. So you get to the 16K claiming level, you're not looking for horses necessarily that have a lot of wins because they don't. But you like to see horses that are very consistently trying and just need a little bit of luck and maybe change something. So that's, Dennis, why I think this horse is in here. But it is a good question.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you're just looking at some of the races she was running for Patrick Biancone, you kind of make that case. Why is she here? Well, I'll kind of make the argument that based on last race, she deserves to be here. So, again, I think one of the biggest points, and I'll touch on the other 2 horses real quick. Patrick Biancone is a great trainer, unbelievable, but he just doesn't need claimers. So when a trainer like Juan Carlos Avila gets a train, it's similar to like Rudy Rodriguez here in New York. They're just better with those types of horses. They know where to place them a little bit better. It's like Chad Brown doesn't need it. Patrick Biancone doesn't necessarily need these types of horses. So it doesn't mean it's a bad move necessarily. I just think that these trainers sometimes are better, and that's what they do. Linda Rice, the same way here in New York. That's what they do. Real quick, the other 2 horses I used was the 4 Sweetly Made at 23-1 in this exact class last time out. Finished second. I don't need to expand on that anymore. That's good enough to put me on the ticket. Tyler Gaffalione picks up the mount again. I think that's important. The 7 Gok Lee was the horse I used for second. This horse has not been good, but what I will say, for a horse that has shown some speed, I don't think drawing the 3 path was all that great for her last time out. I think drawing towards the outside in a small field is huge. If you're going to be 10th, all the way on the outside in 10th, it's a bad position. If you're going to be 7th, drawn to the outside, it's a massive difference. We know what Paco Lopez is going to do from the gate. I don't think there's any really arguments or complaints there. I'm sure you kind of factored in the 4 and 7 when you were kind of making your ticket.
Yeah, 7 was a third horse that I would use. So if there is a scratch, I might go and look to the 7 here. I like that Paco's picking it up. A little concerned, this horse is not put together back-to-back strong buyers ever in her career, and she's coming out of a 70s, which is about the 3rd or 4th best in her career. So a little concerned, but again, this is the 16K level, so we can't really get too picky here. Steve Clasaris is 23% in turf sprints with a really nice ROI. The 7 and the 1 were my next 2 horses. I wasn't a big fan of the 4 necessarily. Again, I think there's a bounce candidate that 68 was the best in a very, very, very long time. And I also, we talk about the Magic Mike show. This is a Mike Samich thing. If you didn't pay for the wedding, don't pay for the funeral. I feel like the wedding was when this horse was 23-1, and yeah, you're getting a much better jockey here, or Tyler Gaffalione's staying aboard, but it was 23-1 that day. Now you're getting 9-2. I feel like you missed your shot at getting that. And then looking at the fractions of that race, she was able to close and almost win, but that's because they went 21 flat, 43.5 for the opener. So I don't see that happening here, but if it does, this is a great horse to come in and stalk and just pick up the pieces and probably get the win.
Yeah, it's interesting. We kind of touched on every horse, but that's what we do here on the Rocket Hour. We want to give you every option, even if we're not going to use them.
Just don't play the 3. That's the one we're not using.
Yeah, don't play the 3. If you're playing the 3, we don't want to hear from you. Move at 20-1, nonetheless. Moving on, the 8th race. This is another claiming 6,250. I don't want to be able to take any of the money out of my bank account and just deposit on a horse like this, which we can. This is for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward, going 6 furlongs on the turf. This is interesting because Aaron taught me this. The cheaper the race, the more coverage you want because they're inconsistent. I kind of looked at 2 horses here. I kind of looked at the 10 and the 12. I'll start with the 10 first. Socially Astray is a pretty good filly for this level. And it's interesting. Some horses run really well at this level, even if they're in, even if it's a low level. She's one of the more consistent ones. So I just think that race is going to come back a little bit better. 2, almost 5-2. So 2-1 in that start. The 12 I really, really like is Gaelic Jack. She just was never a part of the race. She moved inside early, and that was it. I think when you're talking about claiming events at Gulfstream, the difference between a 12.5 and cutting that in half is the difference between me running against a car. These horses are just so different. It's unbelievable. And you could say, well, Ricky, it's only, you're slashing the price in half to 62.50. Watch some of those horses and they would all win this race. And she just kind of looks like one of those horses. If you can see, she quits, but she gets the lead. I don't know if any of these horses are going to catch her. She will be a short price, but I think Edgard Zayas, who was aboard back on October 18th, knows he'll be on the best horse here. How did you kind of see this one? Or are you willing to take 3-1 on the morning line?
Well, the 12 was the fourth. I went 4 deep, and the 12 was the one that I put last there. And a big reason is because of the price. I'm really nervous about this horse. I think is a deserving favorite in here, but is still a beatable favorite. Is Horse Broker Maiden at Gulfstream Park West, which is kind of like if you struggle to win at Santa Anita and Del Mar, and then you go to Los Al and you break your maiden. It's like, okay, you did it, but who did you really beat? But she looked really great that day. She showed a lot of speed. Zayas clearly knows how to handle her, and he learned from the last time he rode her how to kind of ration her speed and she's also shown some development since then, so that's nice. You're getting her second off of a layoff here. The class drop that you mentioned, that makes perfect sense. The 60 buyer that she got for breaking her maiden is really strong in this field. A lot of it's the short price. The 10 was my top choice here, so I'm glad that we see eye to eye on this one. I think this is the right class level. And if you talked about Socially Astray, it was very strong at this level. I also think if you watch that race, Lalali, the 10 horse, really got hurt by being on the inside. She drew post 2. She was stuck on the inside through a duel. She fought pretty well, and she just kind of gave up in the stretch because she'd just been working so hard on the inside, which could really hurt horses. Now she draws all the way out in 10. If she has to stalk just behind the 12, she can do that. She can press the pace, but I think the fact that she's outside now gives her a much better chance. Amador Sanchez, this is an angle we talk about on the Magic Mike show that we like a lot. He had the horse originally, lost her for 25. She goes to Cheryl Weinbaugh, then to Carlos David, who's a high percentage trainer, and then that's when Sanchez claims her back for 12.5. So loses her for 25, gets her back for 12.5, so he's already made the money back on her. And he knows how to handle her. So I think this is a good fit. Barrios is to be his 6th time riding. There's a lot to like about this one.
Yeah, real quick. I know you went a little deeper, folks. I do want to mention this is all before scratches. Usually we do this after scratches, just with certain time restrictions for both of us today. We just did it a little earlier, and you don't have to volunteer yourself. That's fine. But nonetheless, no. In all seriousness, if we can get the scratches, we will try to update it mid-show. We will definitely do that, and we will tweet it out later as well if there are massive changes as well. Magic, you went a little bit deeper. You like the 5, Leo's Diamond, and I don't disagree. I think if we're talking about the race with that bird map 1, if you like the 10, if you like the 12, then you probably like the 5 also. So I kind of agree there. I just kind of will go a little shorter. Was there any prices that you said that they have a shot in this spot?
Yeah, I like the 11 too. I think the 11's pretty sneaky at 10-1, and normally this is a sprint, so I feel good taking the 3 outside horses. If this was a route going short run into that turn, I'd be really scared. But I think the suitable class drop. This horse has never been the 11 horse. That is never been at this level this far down. Is a daughter of Ken Theros, who's a very, very strong Florida sire, especially for sprinting. And kind of like last race when I picked the horse on top because Irad was on. Luis Saez, never been on this horse, doesn't ride for this barn, shows up here. And so to me, that's a big clue. Plus, we're getting 10-1. There is some concern because this horse has either been running in turf sprints or trying to run in turf sprints to get reined off. But she's run well enough, I should say, to get the job done. If she can rediscover that form from when she was early in her career when she started on dirt, she can get it done. There is a reason, though, that you're getting 10-1, and you have to try and guess. Can she handle the dirt? Is she better for the turf? Is she not good on either one? It's kind of an interesting move there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That is a price that I would agree if I were going to use that horse. If I was going to use the price, I would. Dennis kind of put up, here comes my price. I like the 2. I don't disagree. I think this is the right level. Seems to be getting better. But what was the excuse last time out? There really wasn't any. I'll also make the point that if you want to bet Daniel Pita, 0 for 31 with wins, 0 for 31 with seconds, and 4 thirds, well, you can have him. If that you can have her, excuse me. If that horse is going to beat me, then you know what? I don't belong playing this card at all. I don't belong playing the sequence because that probably will be, in my guess, one of the longest shots. You're looking at 30-1 probably. So, Dennis, if you like her, you'll probably be the only one with her, so go for it. The 9th race, starter optional claiming of 25,000 for 3-year-olds upward. Real quick, I'm going to scroll down the entry so we can all follow along here. It's interesting. I kind of like this race from a competitive spot. I don't necessarily know how great this group is, to be honest, but I do think it's another competitive race. Magic, where did you kind of go? I was kind of looking at some of the shippers kind of coming in. One big shipper, the 6th Texas Rule.
Yeah, so I had two must uses that I think you have to use these horses. One of them is the Texas Rule, and I'll say again that what I said with the first race, that if you've got a stronger opinion elsewhere, maybe shorten up there. This is a 7-horse field. If you go beyond 3 deep here, you really should hit the all button, because at that point you're using over 50% of the field. The price could come in and really screw you over. You don't want to be mad about that. So the 6 is one that you brought up. I love it. Big class drop here. This horse has never been in for a tag. This is the first time it's happening. I'm a really big fan of Brian Lynch and Julian Leperoux when they team up together. It's not something that hits at a high percentage necessarily. They're 13% at Gulfstream, 14% overall, but they have a nice ROI together. And we're horse players. We like ROI. We like to make money. So I like that she's in first time for a tag. She's also getting Lasix back for the first time since her debut, which was the only time she's been on turf, the only time she's been on Lasix, the only time that she's won. So now, you look at Keeneland. It was rained off the turf, didn't work out well. Churchill Downs in the slop, didn't work out well. Lasix, turf, 3rd off the layoff, in for a tag. There's a lot of signs here that say this horse should be great. If we're getting 5-1, I mean, I think that's a really big steal.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You went, I went 2-3-6. You also went 2-3-6. My biggest concern was the 3. Granted, his races when he hasn't run well, look at his odds. I think that's one thing to note. I'll go through some of these. We're gonna laugh together when we go through it. 45-1. All right, we'll throw that one out. Then 4-1, almost 9-2. That's probably where he belonged. 56-1, 47.5-1, 21-1, and actually broke his maiden at the 25 maiden claiming at 14-1. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do, but I'm going to guess this horse was a little bit out of place in some of those races. I mean, some of those odds are incredible, and you could see and even in the race that he was 14-1, he won, and it was pretty, a nice effort, kind of just stalking and moving on. And then the other race where he was 9-2, won easy. The distance is a little bit of a concern for me, and I did use this horse, so take that with a grain of salt. But I was all over Texas Rule. I think this horse broke the maiden on turf. Granted, it was a Canterbury, and you could say, well, what does that prove? Well, at least I know he can go the distance, and I know he could run on the grass. That's for starters. The allowance race last time out at Churchill Downs, folks, those horses are brutal. A lot of those allowance races are low-level stakes competition, especially in November, especially at that time in the fall. I think it's even tougher sometimes than what you would maybe see in the springtime. So I love Julian Leperoux on the turf. I think that's an angle that we've talked about. I think Mike talked about it yesterday. Aaron talked about it yesterday. Aaron and I talked about it Wednesday. I was all over Julian for not running well, not riding well, I should say. Well, Julian, you proved me wrong over the last couple of weeks because he's been fantastic, especially on the turf. I also look at some of these other trainers, and I don't think any of them stand out. They have nice numbers. They're going to have nice riders, but I think Texas Rule, if he could run anything similar to his best race, I probably think that's the horse to use. The one horse that's interesting that we didn't get a chance to talk about, I guess I should say two, and this is the climbing the ladder angle that I talk about. Do the 1 and the 5, in your opinion, real quick, have any chance, because they just broke their maiden at the 25 maiden claiming level? This is a significant step up, but it's always interesting. Mike always talks about new shooters. These are new shooters at this level. A lot of the other ones are kind of dropping in and you're trying to figure it out. Do the 1 and 5 have any chance, or are we kind of throwing them out?
I threw them out personally. I think that this is a tough enough group that first time versus winners is going to be a steep ask for these horses. So if you like them, I mean, a lot of them actually, I'll take it back. They're all adding Lasix for the first time. So who knows what the hell's going to happen with Lasix adding, but I didn't use them, but again, that's just me. I really try not to play first time versus winners when I think that there are logical horses who have already been facing winners, such as the 3, who is the only horse that's won twice, and you're getting a big jockey upgrade with Irad. God bless Antonio Sano. That guy is very ambitious with his horses. I remember when he had Gunnevera, and Gunnevera was in every Grade 1 race he could possibly throw that horse in. Probably didn't belong, but I like that about him. Just to touch on that real quick, was another horse I thought was a must-use, simply because I think this is Lone Speed. I think this horse has the potential to get loose early, and going to mount a 16th on the turf, I think that, if they let this horse, if Gaffleone can get this horse to settle, which he's been, this horse has done it before, I think this race is going to be over. So I hate the 5-2 price, and I don't like that the buyers don't match up that well against this field, but Lone Speed, adding Lasix on the turf, oof, look out.
Yeah, and I agree. I guess the one angle that if you were to play the 1 or 5, I'll make this case real quick. If you like the 5, you're going to use the 1 because they're coming out of similar races, similar efforts. If you like the 1, you're going to throw in the 5. The other part, so I think we agree there. The other part is, you could look at the 2 and say, granted, this horse was scheduled for the turf in his debut, so it was logical to like this horse on the turf at this level. He ran really, really well and comes into the spot at 5-2 after being 6-1. The 1 and the 5 are probably going to be in that 6 to 8-1 range. So I guess you can make the case if these are similar efforts. Now, granted, the 1 even won by 2 1/4 lengths last time out. So you could even make the case that if you're by the transitive property, I'm going to try to sound intelligent. By the transitive property, if the 1 can run anything similar to what the 2 did in their debut, well, it could be possible that they run a similar race here. Granted, we're not using these horses. We think they're drop downs that are just better. But I guess if you were to make the case for the 1 or the 5, you need to use them both. And again, by the transitive property, the 2 did do something similar to what the 1 and 5 did when they broke their maiden. Again, what is my job here? To make the case for everyone. Everyone sounds good on paper. The final race, this is the one I loved the most in the sequence. Maiden special weight for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward, going 1 1/16 mile on the turf. So that's going to be 2 turns, going 8.5 furlongs on the turf. There's a lot of runners here you're going to see. I can't fit all of them on the screen, but we'll start at the top, and I'll kind of try to scroll my way down. I'll start real quick, Magic. I use the logical horses, the 7 and the 10. I'm not going to touch on those. I'll let you do that because we're kind of similar. I love the 3, Costana, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, and the 5, Spongy. I look at these races and look at the favorites and say, why haven't you gotten it done? Now, granted, coalition building got much better. I think you're the one who pointed out to me coalition building is a Klarovich, Klarman, where they kind of get creative with their names, right? The business owner type of thing. Yep. Coalition building, again, I'm not the smartest guy out there, but it sounds good. It sounds businessy. It sounds all that great stuff. There was improvement there, and Antoinette is a really, really talented filly, so that's something to note. The 10, Take Charge Row, you just look at the speed figures and say she's going to run well, but she's had her chances. Granted, she was only the favorite once. I want to focus on the 2 prices that I used, and granted, I went 5 deep. I also used Ocean Air, who I don't love. I think she'll have to improve. But the 3, Costana, there's pedigree. You get Sherry DeVoe, and you're almost getting a purchase price of $300,000. I don't know if this horse can run a lick, but that's too much on paper at 20-1 to say maybe she's able to do something when the favorites, to me, haven't really proven anything, and I'll make the argument the 7 and 10 should have already won. And the 5, Spongy, is kind of along the same thing. If you want to doubt, Bill Mott has not been running well here in New York over the winter meet, but he's running well here. And what that tells me is he's bringing his good horses, fillies, mares, boys, girls, older, younger, whatever they are, they're coming to Gulfstream to run, even though the purses necessarily aren't that much better. The competition is better, and he wants to see what he has. It kind of seems like his horses that are in the minor leagues, quote unquote, are at Aqueduct, and his major league horses are kind of here at Gulfstream. So those were 2 prices. Knowing me and my structure, the 10 will win or the 7 will win, and I won't get any value. But I did think those were 2 prices that you had to include in this spot.
So I'm going to disagree with you on that, simply because you've got 2 horses debuting at or over a mile, in this case a mile and a 16th, and for me that's a big red flag. I'm always very, very cautious when I see that. Shree DeVoe, 0 for 11 debuting horses at or greater than a mile. Bill Mott, 3 for 45 debuting horses at or greater than a mile. It's very difficult for a horse to win first time out going 2 turns. So on that point, I'm chucking both of them, but if you're looking for value, I especially think that the 5, because it's Velasquez, Mott, and because hard spun out of a Smart Strike mare is going to be really able to handle the distance. It's just for me a matter of I don't trust that either of these trainers are going to have them ready to fire that sharp going that long. I put the 10 on top. I think third off the layoff is going to be a good angle here. Brian Lynch, Paco Lopez is jumping aboard. Huge jockey upgrade from what's been on this horse in the last few starts. Brian Lynch is very strong in these positions. You got an $87,000 purchase price. I like the fact that she just missed by a neck, and yeah, you could argue she probably should have won, but I could argue that if that's a little longer, I think she's going to end up winning the war of attrition. She got nailed on the wire about a horse that was coming up a little quick. The horse that finished third behind her, Black Magic Woman, ended up winning her next start, so you've already got that built in. And so because of that, it's not my top choice, but I have to use the 8 because the 8 horse finished 4th, veered into the start. If you forget about that fact that this horse broke from the rail and just went straight into the rail and out of the gate, I think that this horse has a much better chance. This is also going to be second off the layoff. When she was in that spot, it was over 2 months that she hadn't been racing. Sias picked up the mount. Sias stays aboard. You don't see any kind of panicky drop. This is a daughter of Warfront. I think the outside draw is going to help a lot. And when you look back when she almost broke her maiden, missed by a neck, they went pretty fast early. And especially for being in New York, those are pretty quick fractions for that race going a mile and an eighth. So she should be able to handle going a mile and a 16th, no problem. And if somebody gets into a speed duel, which I think is going to be the case more likely here, especially compared to that last race that she had, she's going to be able to close into this. So I think that that's going to work out well for her. I'd use the 7, but man, I don't want to. I really hate using these kind of Chad Brown horses that, like you said, Ricky, you should have won already. And you could probably say that, Antoinette, pretty damn good horse. Oh, no shame losing there, but we haven't seen her in over a year. Well over a year. So that gives me a little bit of worry. I will use her. I hate the price, but it's Chad Brown, Irad, Klarovich. You told me a long time ago, don't leave those people off. Like, take the short price, make it work. So I'm going to make it work with the 7 there. I don't love it. And then the 2 was the last one that I used. Inside speed, Shug McGahee, Jose Ortiz. My concern with the 2, she just kind of runs in place when she's in her races. So if Jose can get her more forwardly placed, maybe she's like Tiz the Magician, where you just need to put her in front of the horse right away. And as soon as she's in the front of the other horses, well, then she's just going to keep running in place, meaning in front. But it's good connections. McGahee's got great stats. I'm a little worried about her running style, but I did want to use her.
Real quick, I don't know if you prepared for race 6, but the fans want you to really quick go through race 6 before you hop out of here. Is there anyone you like race 6? I'll if you didn't get a chance, I can go through it real quick before we bring Mike on. You want to take a shot real quick, or did you get a chance to look? If you didn't, that's fine.
I'm looking real quick. Just go ahead and spitball for like 20 seconds. I'll handicap it real quick.
I'll start. I think the 6 Nocturnal is just clearly the horse to beat. I know you guys hated Dr. Post last year. I was kind of the one who you and Mike, I shouldn't say you guys because Mike's not on quite yet, but Dr. Post at that time was still pretty good when he broke his maiden. I don't think losing by a length and a quarter to Dr. Post in your debut was bad. I'll make the argument that the layoff it's a slight concern. There's clearly a fitness issue, but Dr. Post really had to go get this horse. I think that's important because if he's able to show that speed again, it's going to be really tough to beat. The other one is Or Office that I like. I don't love the race last time out, but I do like the way Shug McGahee's been running here. I think Jose Ortiz picking up the mount is important. There's the other Todd Pletcher that I used, but I wasn't thrilled with. I think this is just a really tough race for a debutant to win. So I kind of like the 3 and 6 Magic. I try to give you a few seconds here and there. Kind of pick one or pick 2 or a few that you're kind of keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I think definitely the 6 is you're going to hate the price at 9 to 5, and you probably won't even get that. But I think you have to use the horse, and I love how you analyze that, Ricky. You said that Dr. Post had to go after this horse and go get him, and that's a tough thing to do. for any horse when you haven't broken your maiden yet. So I think the Nocturnal is a very strong, likely favorite, deserving favorite here. I wouldn't hate using, I mean, if you're going to use one, why not use the other? The Pletcher that's on the rail is pretty interesting to me as well. The Dam Agatha is 0 for 6 with first-time starters, which is a little concerning, but you also, I don't love horses that debut breaking from the rail, but $700,000 Son of Candy ride, they've waited until his 4-year-old season for him to debut, meaning they've been very patient with him, and they think this horse has a lot of ability. Rapoli stable, St. Elias stable, they're very big ownership groups. They don't need to hold on to horses if they're not doing that well. We've seen Mike Rapoli throw horses in claiming races with Rudy Rodriguez and win all the time. So the fact that they've kept this horse at this level to debut as a 4-year-old after spending $700,000, I think that's a big sign that this horse is pretty good.
Yeah, before we let you get out of here, the 7 Brazilian Air, real quick. This horse was scheduled for the turf, then runs on the dirt, was awful. If this horse gets on the turf at some point, sure, I'll use them. I'll consider Chad Brown on the turf. I would do it anyway, but I think you that's probably a horse you could leave off. Excuse me. I'd probably rather have the other Pletcher who's going to make their debut. Real quick, Magic, before you go, is there anything you want to add? We will be talking about the fairgrounds with Mike real quick after this. So if there's anything you want to add, something to look forward to, I won't ask you about your Steelers because that wasn't fun. I'm not going to do that to you.
That's okay. Listen, I when they beat the Ravens to go to 11-0, and you texted me, congrats. I said that's the worst 11-0 team in history, and they're terrible. So I knew from a long time ago they were bad. Hats off to Aaron's Cleveland Browns because they deserve to win that better. I have a couple quick things. I saw Dennis brought up the last race at Gulfstream on Friday. Race or number 11, My Happy Girl, is shipping from California. This is a former Bob Baffert trainee who is now going to try going on. I don't understand this move at all. Goes to Kenny McPeak and is going to try turf. This is a daughter of American Pharoah, but Mike and I have this rule that if a horse leaves Bob Baffert or Chad Brown and goes to somebody who's not a high percentage trainer like them, don't play him. Unless they're taking a huge drop, don't play him. So, Dennis, just to answer you on My Happy Girl, there's a reason that she left Baffert. I've had a horse that had a sip of coffee with Baffert, and Baffert, after about a month, said this horse isn't any good and chucked her to Indiana. So that's what he's kind of known to do. Also, the race before that, I think it was race 9, the horse on the rail, I forgot to mention this, is a filly facing the boys. So if you're looking for a special angle, or if you think that there's a reason, maybe if you like the fact that a filly is facing the boys in this spot, you have that going for you. So I completely forgot to touch on those two things. And then finally, on this coming Tuesday next week at 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern, tentatively, I am having Graham Motion join me for a live interactive discussion. We're going to be talking all about Lasix and what it means for horses, and as horse players, what we can look for and what does it do. There's a lot of general questions about Lasix, and I wanted to bring on someone who is an expert. And as it stands right now, Graham Motion, of all people, is giving me about 15, 20 minutes of his time. So come back to this spot Tuesday morning, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. Bring your questions about Lasix. Please don't be assholes because Graham Motion is a nice guy giving us his time. So I'd love to have you guys join me on that one. If you have any questions, if you can't make it live, shoot me an email, magic@racingdudes.com. Very simple. And we'll have some fun with Graham Motion talking Lasix.
Yeah, no, this is great. Not only are we educational, but Magic is telling you what to do in your daily lives. Don't be an asshole. That is the moral of today's show. Let's all be nice people. This is a new year. We're 2 weeks into the new year. No reason to be mean. It can't be any worse than 2020. Magic, thank you for coming on. Again, it's just about 8 a.m. your time. You look great. The outfit's great. The hat's great. It's a perfect match. You look like you should be on the beach hanging out or at the track watching the pony. Thank you so much for coming on again. Whatever you have to do, hope it's okay. And we will be tuning in. Hopefully there are no scratches, so we will kind of get that sorted out later on. Magic, thank you. I'll let you go now.
Thank you.
So real quick, before I bring Mike on, there are a lot of interesting things that I want to talk about. We'll be getting to fairgrounds. I know Mike and Magic covered that yesterday. We'll be talking a little football. Mike has his stuff going on at Gulfstream today. It's really a great weekend going on. It's actually a 4-day weekend. So you get to listen to me for 4 days, or Mike or whoever for 4 days. So real quick, we will bring Mike on right now in the moment. There he is. You know what? This is great. We got Mike himself on 2 days in a row on the show. The fans really wanted you back.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit of a crazy morning. I got the sound bombs I put out every morning trying to get that done for Gulfstream, and they don't have changes out yet. What is going on, man? They're usually so on top of getting the changes out, so still waiting for that. And then just working through the weekend. Like you said, we got 4 days of racing, which is awesome. Got a nice Santa Anita card on Monday. Sam Houston debuted their 50-cent pick 6, which of course carried over last night. So got a nice carryover there. Turfway's got a carryover pick 5 pool. One of the final chances to qualify NHC is today. We got a BCBC qualifier over at Horse Players. So a lot going on in the horse racing world right now, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, and one of the first things, obviously, I have my stuff out, so I'll try to be making scratches and changes and all that as well. If you have to, we'll try to kind of, I guess, pause for a minute while we try to do our stuff. I know you and Magic talked about Fairgrounds yesterday, and I'll be honest, I hadn't gotten a chance to do that necessarily quite yet. Let's do it. Let's touch on Fairgrounds for tomorrow. Again, if you're not listening now and you want to listen to their podcast, do that. It's the Magic Mike Show. They're great. They'll break it down just like we're kind of doing it here. I guess real quick, we'll start with race 10. That's the late pick 4. Mike, if you don't even have to give us your ticket, you can kind of just keep that to yourself if you want, but kind of just maybe walk us through what you were looking at each race. If there was a horse or a price you were kind of looking at. We'll start with race 10. It's the Louisiana Stakes. Grade 3, going 2 turns, 8.5 furlongs on the dirt. This is one of their biggest days of the year, so you definitely want to tune in. There'll be big pools. I know Mike will be playing it at some point. I'll get a chance to look at it in depth. I'll be playing it. So let's kind of start race 10. We know Silver Prospector is in here. Blackberry Wine's a good horse. We saw Wells Bayou. There are a lot of good horses in here. Where did you kind of start?
Yeah, I mean, this whole sequence kind of starts and ends with Brad Cox. I think when you look at this, he could end up sweeping the 4 races, or at least he's going to have 3 of the favorites in here. And in this race, he specifically got Wells Bayou, who on paper is by far the best horse. Magic went into this in detail on our podcast, so give him full credit. Brad Cox has admitted this horse isn't fully teed up for this race. So right there, when I'm staring at a horse who's clearly the best on paper, who's 3-1 morning line, who I think is going to go off closer to 8-5 and is going to get bet in the day, this is a horse I want to try and beat. I'm going to defensively use Wells Bayou because, like I said, this is the best horse, and 85% may be enough to get the job done. But I think you got to kind of look a couple other places and see if you can get some value here. Wells Bayou should have some heat early from Blackberry Wine, who's run some pretty big races. So I have a feeling that Blackberry Wine might be able to get the job done as well. I think those two are going to butt heads on the front. On top, I ended up on the 3, Silver Prospector. And to me, the interesting part about this horse specifically is that, Asmussen has 2 in here, and Santana's been riding both of them, the 9 Solomon and the 3 Silver Prospector. Solomon's a shorter price on the line, but Santana, his main guy, ends up on the 3 Silver Prospector, who should get a pretty good trip in here. I think you're going to have enough pace for Silver Prospector to close into. And look, I'm one of those people who does kind of believe in the hype sometimes. And in this case, Silver Prospector was a really hyped horse last year and just kind of faded off a little bit. Ran well at Oaklawn Park, won the Southwest, didn't run as well in the Rebel and the Arkansas Derby, and they kind of just gave him a break. He's come back, run 2 races. We're getting 3rd off the layoff here. I think you're going to get a big effort from the 3 Silver Prospector, who's 5-1. So I'm on the show. I'm going to go 3 deep. Or on the Magic Mike Show, I ended up going 3 deep. But I did play a $5 ticket where I singled Silver Prospector to kick it off to see if we can get a big price home.
Yeah, I agree. That was a great point about Wells Bayou. I actually didn't know that, so I'm happy.
Magic digs, man. He's got some good info on that stuff.
Yeah, Magic is definitely the guy going through, the pin in the haystack, or whatever they said, needle in the haystack. He's going through everything, finding all that good information. Race 11 is the Colonel. Sorry if I pronounce this wrong. The Colonel E.R. Bradley Stakes. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. This is 8.5 furlongs on the turf. I thought this was wide open. There are a lot of horses you can go. I've always been a fan of Mr. Misunderstood. That's another Brad Cox. You kind of talked about that. Were you kind of on Mr. Misunderstood, or were you kind of looking somewhere else?
Well, Mr. Misunderstood actually retired yesterday. So that one broke while we were on the show. So he had a very bad workout. And Cox said, hey, he's done. He's done enough for us. Let's not send him back out there. The horse has run 33 times, won 13, just shy of $1 million. So Mr. Misunderstood is going to be scratched out and not run and is going to retire. So congratulations, Mr. Misunderstood and the Connections, for one heck of a career. We've been absolutely awesome racehorse to follow. I love playing him at Kentucky Downs, some other places. So it's going to be sad to see him go. But I do think that a couple horses benefit, and it makes this race even more wide open. He was going to get a pace set up in here. I have a feeling that you're going to see a couple horses go right out to the lead in this spot. Sailing Solo, the 10 horse with Mitch Merle, has a ton of speed. Spectacular Gem, the 8 horse, one of your favorites, has a ton of speed. So I think the two of them are really going to fly out early. I kind of like a price in here. Peace Achieved, the 9 horse, 20-1. It's a really interesting spot for this horse. Look, the horse likes to be able to sit close or come from just off the pace. Mark Casse doesn't enter horses just to enter horses. He's 14% in stakes races. This is a first off a layoff for an early or just turned 4-year-old horse. So this is a really aggressive, really aggressive spot for Casse to put Peace Achieved into. I think he kind of can handle it. And if this horse takes a big step forward, which is needed, don't get me wrong, then Peace Achieved is going to be a threat here. And so I like the 9 at a price. That my top pick was the one Logical Myth, who is going to just get the setup here. I mean, you're going to have him sitting first of the second flight. He's going to be able to pocket up around the turn and sit the trip and be able to tilt out into the 2-path when they turn for home and get first run on the leaders. But that's not that creative, man. He's probably sitting in the morning line around 4-1. Give me the 9 at 20-1 is a little spicy factor here for the pick 4.
Yeah, if you follow Mike or you have been following or you want to follow, be prepared to throw some prices in there.
You get creative every now and then.
Yeah. I mean, this is granted, it's about making money, but one of these will come in at some point or another, and that's where it's one of those hits you're going to remember for the rest of your life, and that's what Mike's trying to do. He's trying to set your 2021 up to be a great year, and we could do that on January 16th. I agree. Logical Myth, Adam Beskiza, Joe Sharp, they do really well at fairgrounds, and you can't argue 4 for 5. At the track. Good luck at any track. If you're going to be 4 for 5, you're going to be successful. The Silver Bullet Day Stakes, real quick before we touch on that, Dr. Miranda did do a video for it. I'm not going to say what she said. Go listen for yourselves. This is a mile and 70 yards. I never really understood the 70 yards things, folks. It's a mile and a 16th or a mile. Figure it out. But okay, nonetheless, we'll throw the 70 yards in there. I'll start with the one Super Sensational. I'm always dubious of Woodbine horses.
You hate the Woodbine horses.
Oh, God. I love their purses. I'll give them credit. Their purses are fantastic. They're unrivaled. So that's one horse. And the other horse is Sunpath. Can you beat these two, or the 1 or the 9? Or can you? Or are you just kind of saying, well, I'll use these 2 and move on?
Well, it's tough because, unfortunately, Divine Comedy is supposedly scratching out of this race, the 6 horse, who is the other Brad Coxon, who I thought was actually a pretty big threat in this spot. I originally had that horse on top before the supposed scratch. So keep an eye on this, because the next race as well, we're going to have a lot of changes. One of the things I freaking hate about fairgrounds, and they do a great job on this card, but man, they allow horses to cross enter in the same day, and it really makes your life difficult as a handicapper. A couple of the horses in the previous 2 races are also cross entered. I think it's My Boy Jack and Captivating Moon. The connections have at least come out and told us where they're going to enter, which I really appreciate. But at the same time, it makes it a little difficult to kind of figure out where everyone's going. Apparently, Divine Comedy is scratching out. That's good news for Sunpath, who I think is going to have a little less heat up top. When I look at this race, the best horses are Super Sensational in Sunpath. I think you could probably go too deep and get through this. If you want to get creative, I think the way to do it is look for someone who can come from the back of the pack, because you have the 2 favorites who are both going to want to be closer to the pace and kind of be at each other's throat latch. The horse that I would point to is Princess Theorem if you want to look for a price. Nyquist has been a great sire. I don't love the fact that the horse went for $10,000, but was at least able to close and win on the dirt and then come back and run in a grade 2 stakes before dropping down here. I actually like the 1 quite a bit here in Super Sensational. I think that the 1 and the 9 are standouts. I agree with you, especially going dirt or from synthetic to dirt. I often kind of take shy away from these Woodbine horses coming in, but I mentioned Mark Casse in the previous race, 14% in stakes races. And then I look at the pedigree of this horse. Look, it's a Curlin, a daughter of Curlin out of an Indian Charlie mare, horse sold for $725,000. And it's a big price tag. Curlin can send him out on synthetic, dirt, turf, whatever you want. Live Oak Plantation was the ones who ended up buying this horse. Both of those races were very visually impressive, and I like the fact we were able to close in the maiden breaking debut at 7 furlongs. Not an easy distance to break your maiden at, especially doing off the pace. So a lot of things to like about the 1 horse here. I ended up just going with the 1 and the 9 after the scratch of the 6. I think they're the class of the field. I don't think you need to go much deeper.
2 points. I'm looking at this pretty much for the first time. I took a brief look last night, so I'm really kind of leaning on you. Real quick about the 1 and the 6. So the 6 will be scratched. So I'll talk real quick. We always talk about if you have 2 horses, one's going to be 8-1 and the other one's 2-1. You want to include them both. Clearly, Brad Cox comes into the spot and says, I'm not entirely confident, or I think the 6 has a legitimate shot. Obviously, the 6 is going to be scratched out. Mike just talked about that. It's just something to keep note, especially in these stakes races. They don't just put 2 in for no reason. They're not trying to burn any bullets. Apparently, Brad Cox thought this filly had a shot. So if you see that kind of theme with someone else moving forward, just keep that in mind, even if the 6 is going to be out. And the 1, I agree. Mark Cassie, they kind of waited for this spot, it looks like. October 17th was the last time she ran. It's possible she had a fitness issue, but you don't go literally from one of the furthest places away in Woodbine, literally north of the border, to Louisiana to run in a race that you don't have a chance. Now, granted, 5-2 morning line indicates she has a chance, but you always like to see horses that are favorites and win like favorites. That's what she did. She hasn't done anything wrong. Again, I'm just a dubious New Yorker, always trying to make a problem with life.
The family is very good too. So Tismus Sue is this family, grade 1 winner, multiple grade 3 routing on the dirt, 8 wins, 1.1 million. Bulletins from this family, 3 stakes wins, sprinting on the turf for $705,000. Her second dam was a grade 3 winner with 6 wins, making career earnings of $218,000. So the 1 has a lot of pedigree on the bottom side, not just that top side of Curlin, which I think is interesting. I want to make sure I mention one other horse, Minute Waltz, the 4 horse. Go back and watch the replay of the last and make your own decisions. But it was a mile at Churchill, ran $75,000 optional claiming, was able to come off the pace a little bit. The winner of the race came back to win next time out, but the horse topped at the start and was bumped. And if you think that's a good enough reason or good enough excuse, then the 4, I think, is playable as well. Also a daughter of Nyquist, sold for $425,000. So I think the 4 Minute Waltz is also interesting in a number.
Yeah, I agree. The 1 and the 9 you can probably get away with. Obviously, the 6 is out, just kind of looking at this now. But there are a few prices with the 4 and 5 that you make good points that, hey, you got a little bit bigger of a budget. Who knows? We'll include them. Let's talk about the race of the day. It's the Lecomte 549. I appreciate, and this is a serious note, it's before the Raven game, and it's probably going to be around halftime of that first football game. So thank you, everyone. I don't know if this was on purpose, but it's the perfect time that we can maybe go back and forth and just catch this at halftime. In all seriousness, though, there's a lot on the line here. We know that. Grade 3, this is their race. This is why people will be watching Fairgrounds at 549. Mandaloun kind of comes in as the favorite, 3-1, and not overwhelmingly. Just kind of taking a look in this, I'm playing against them. I think there are a lot of horses, and again, you really looked in depth. I think Midnight Bourbon coming out of I love Jackie's Warrior. I don't think you're the biggest fan. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I really, really like Jackie's Warrior.
She looked great at Saratoga.
Yeah.
Belmont. I got it up in New York.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Definitely New York. I agree there. And it's possible that maybe Jackie's Warrior is a better 2-year-old and 3-year-old moving forward. That could be up for debate. But then you have the 2 that's coming out of the Street Sense race. I don't think he was that good, but then he lost to Keep Me in Mind by 2.5. I'll make the argument Keep Me in Mind is one of the top choices moving forward as we hit the early part of spring and the later part of spring as we get to the Triple Crown time. I just look at Mandaloun and I say, I don't know what the heck he's beaten. Tell me I'm wrong about Mandaloun and tell me that the distance won't be an issue, or are you in my camp and say we're going to beat this horse?
Well, I'm not singling. Actually, that's not true. I did single Mandaloun in the $5 ticket, but that may change based on some scratches that were announced. Apparently, Beep Beep will be running in the allowance earlier, who is the 4 horse in one of your pace presents. And the 9 horse Manor House will be running in the allowance earlier in the day, who is another pace presence. Which leaves us with something that is very dangerous, and that is Lone Speed. And the 4 Proxy now picks up a Lone Speed tag here. When you watch these 3-year-old races, especially going 2 turns earlier on in the Derby Trail, speed is deadly. I mean, look, these horses aren't used to going 2 turns yet. A lot of them don't love to pass horses going 2 turns. And now Proxy is going to be able to get a lead pretty much like the last race where this horse went out on this track at 1 1/16, was able to go out in 24, almost 25 seconds, 49 seconds, and won fairly easily, even after hitting the gate. I have a feeling Proxy is going to get loose. I think Proxy is really dangerous in this spot because of the 2 scratches that we've had announced. Now, if Beep Beep or Manor House ends up in this race, I'm I reserve the right to change my opinion because they're the two that could press proxy. But I think that makes it awfully tough. I'm not as high on keep me in mind as some other people, so I don't love the two Arabian Prince as much. That being said, Mirrorwish is one of those sires that I think is one you have to keep an eye on. Not a lot of people know this horse, but it was a son of Maglodoro, and I think when you see a horse that stands for 7,500 that has Maglodoro as a father, so Mirrorwish is one of these examples, and then that horse sells for 235,000. Essentially 30x the stud fee, that tells you that this horse has a ton of talent. And so I do think that there's some upside here for Arabian Prince, who's owned by West Point Thoroughbreds. Midnight Bourbon's an interesting one to me. I don't love sitting on go. I don't love the fact that Midnight Bourbon couldn't get the job done 2 back. This horse is yet to go the full 2 turns. I mean, Churchill Downs, Ellis Park, Belmont, these are all like the 1-turn mile-ish places where I'm not in love with the races. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here going the full 2 turns for the Sun Is Tis Now. But like, it's bred to get the distance. And the thing about Jackie's Warrior is I almost give Jackie's Warrior a pass for the Breeders' Cup. That horse, everything that could go wrong, the setup for that race was absolutely horrible. There was so much pace in that race. So I'm not sure how you can really go after I'm not sure how you can really go after Jackie's Warrior and say that race was the reason the thing was completely thrown out. So for me, I'm more a fan of looking at proxy and thinking proxy can take this field gate to wire. But I do like Mandaloon as well. I'm not sure I can leave this one off.
No, I agree. I don't think leaving Mandaloon off is a smart decision. I just think that this is one of those races where he hasn't been tested, and this is going to be a big spot. If he's that good, then it's not going to matter. Even with, it's interesting as you make the point of 2 scratches, drawing from the 10 to what would be the 8 in theory. Well, not in theory. The number will still be the 10, but will be from the 8th spot. It's a massive difference for a horse that is going to be tested for the first time. You always kind of want to see how easily can we set this up for this horse. I don't know what he's faced, to be honest. I don't know what the maiden special. Bob's Edge does come back as the next out winner. Okay, that might mean something. I don't know what that allowance race is. We talked about it earlier with Magic. Those are good horses, so I'm not taking anything away. I just think that if you were to play a win bet, that is not the smartest win bet. If you are playing a multi-race sequence like you are, like Magic did, like some other people, including myself, that's important to include him as well. Any between this sequence or anything else on maybe the whole card that we're not going to talk about, anything you want to touch on or anything that we may have missed before we move on to how well we did yesterday?
I would say don't spend too much on a 50-cent ticket in this sequence. That would be my one big recommendation. This has a chance of chalking out. And if Brad Cox has a big day, the bettors will not. It will, unless you absolutely hammer his horses. So I would restrain from playing, one of those $120, $150 pick 4 tickets. I think keeping it between the $36 and $48 range is more reasonable, and just taking a stand on who you like, maybe playing who you like a couple times on a $10 to $12 ticket, something like that.
Yeah, and that's great to know, folks. Just because the pools are going to be big doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pay big if the favorites come in. And Fairgrounds, I saw yesterday, I've seen it for a while. There are a lot of short prices, so you really need to be careful. Granted, the races were taken off the turf for the most part, and that kind of eliminated some prices. But that is always something to know. And Mike is all for prices, or I shouldn't say his
I would love to have a 20-1 in every race, but you got to be reasonable. You can only pick the winners. You can't control how much they pay.
His product is the Somo bombs, folks. They're bombs. They're for a reason. But you have to understand that not everything is going to include a bomb or a long shot or however you want to call it. So that's always something to note. Real quick, we are going to get into some football. We're still waiting for some scratches. I don't know what Gulfstream's got going on down there. Folks, it's 11:23.
Yeah, I just refreshed. We got an hour till post. Usually they're out 2 hours early.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on real quick. Well, this does give us an opportunity to kind of talk about real quick yesterday. We're not going to show the replays to you. We never do here on the Rocket Hour. We have a lot to go over. Real quick, we are going to talk about, just real quick, we'll show you guys the charts right here. We're going to talk about it real quick. If someone has scratches, please let us know, and we'll try to kind of go through those in the moment. Race 7, Don't Get Cozy. This was kind of those races real quick. We'll talk about it. You were on the 2, Miss Pepina. I think a lot of people were on the 2-3. It just kind of seemed like the 3 just kind of sat the better trip, sat off, and kind of just moved clear once the race got going.
Yeah, I mean, I fell for going after the better price here. I thought that the 2 and the 3 were comparable horses, and that you're going to get a better price on the 2. So that's why I went with the 2 in my daily doubles. I was right about the better price. I was wrong about the better horse. The 3 was clearly the best horse in the race. Luckily, we had them on the pick 4 ticket, and that's why what I mentioned how I played the sequence. I hammered my opinions in doubles, but I wanted to make sure I was covered with the other horses I liked, and that panned out pretty well because the other horses had a good day, and the top picks did okay, but they didn't get the job done in enough races.
Yeah, and that's the great thing. I was listening to TVG yesterday. I'm not going to mention who. Sometimes it's just a good feeling when your opinion is wrong, but you get the race right. And you have the ability to do that with the multi-race sequence. When you go race by race, you don't. But you might lose less money when you go race by race. And I think we talked about that yesterday. We're going to go through these real quick because I have to get your football opinions. I have to. It's Football Friday, as I like to call it. So we're going to go through these relatively quick, and we're going to show you some evidence. We're going to show some evidence as to why it was important to listen yesterday. You were all over the 6 Tropicat. I'll be honest. I didn't love Tropicat. You kind of got me going on him, and Aaron and I were wrong about Christos Sky. Kind of tell me what your reasoning was with Tropicat and how the race kind of went.
Yeah, the key to this race was Christos Sky. I mentioned it on the stream yesterday. This is a dirt speed horse, and dirt speed and turf speed are different. And when this horse didn't make the lead, this horse has 0 chance of winning. And when you're taking as much money as the 7 did in this spot, that really helps you in the multi-race sequences. I was 4 deep without using the 7 here, and that really made a big difference for me. Yeah, Tropicat's one of those horses where when it gets the pace set up, when everything goes its way, it can win, and that's exactly what happened in this spot. I mean, we had the 6 didn't even break and still won this for fun, which was kind of crazy. But this horse had consistently sprinted well on the Gulfstream Park turf. You guys were more concerned about the layoff than I was. I was kind of happy that we had that one filler race in the middle to make sure this horse was at least somewhat fresh. And Tropicat absolutely fired here. I mean, this was a huge race from this horse, and 8-1 was a big coup here in the pick 4 and really helped us get the prices home for a $24 ticket.
Yeah, because we just like you were talking about the 2 and 3, you could be happy you moved on with the race before. You weren't getting any value either way. So this is one of those races that this is where you're going to see the payout. This is where you're going to see it. If you get Christos Sky, you get fully loaded, you're not going to get any value. Now you go from what we'll show your ticket, which was 3 figures. You might be looking at a potential 2-figure payout if you got one of these favorites home. This was one of the more interesting races.
Interesting is one way to put it.
Yeah, and we're going to get into details. I'll just start by saying I didn't make a ticket for the show yesterday. I was really shocked to see Woodfin go off at the odds that she did. Clearly didn't run like it. I like this horse a little bit. I never would have liked this horse at just a touch under 7-1. I'll let you get into what does a shark say because you have a strong opinion there. I will say real quick about the winner, Cristal. I don't need her back. She just really lumbered home. I wasn't overly impressed. All right, go on your rant about what does a shark say and what happened with her yesterday.
I mean, I'm not going to go on a rant here because look, the horse missed the break a little bit, but your lone speed in the first half was 51 seconds and you're not in the lead, Saya. It's like, come on, let's go. Let's swim this horse up to the front. Use some of that tail power to get this what does the shark say up there? Because even in the lane, it looked like the 6 still had horse. Like the 6 kind of re-rallied. I thought it was absolutely done around the turn. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, why is the 6 running home? So I think this was a little bit of a situation where I really wish that when you have speed as an asset, when it's a weapon, and we're going to talk about this in the next race because, man, you saw the weapon from the 2 horse there. Use it. Don't like try and rate behind a horse. And in this case, rate in 3rd place. Like it wasn't even the Maker horse was sitting in 2nd here. And this is one of those examples where why you use Maker going along on the turf is this. Like the 7 horse almost got home for no real logical reason. You had the 1 race at Kentucky Downs. It made a little bit of sense. But when Maker claims a horse and then sends it long on the turf, pay attention. But look, Saya should have been on the lead with the 6. I realized the 6 missed the break, but it was really frustrating to see that horse sitting in 3rd around the mass majority of this racetrack when the weapon for the 6 horse, and the reason why we all liked it was the speed.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Luis Saez, we know him to be aggressive. Maybe that was one of the factors. Maybe we played too much into it. I guess last time out, you can make the argument that he didn't really do anything with the lead either. But when it's so slow, I don't care how good you are, you're not passing these horses. And I don't think there was any standout on paper. So you kind of have to be close. It's not like there was a horse. There's this is obviously a joke, but there's no Zenyatta. There's no horse that's going to come from the back. So much better. It doesn't make a difference. She was relatively close, but just not good enough.
I was hoping she'd run more of the Florida turf pace than the New York turf pace, and this was like a New York turf race with it. That's like, and I think that you if you string them out a little bit here, I think the 6 is really tough down the lane. But that just didn't happen.
No, I agree. And now, we're going to make the case. You kind of look at the 6. What does a shark say? I don't know. This horse has only finished in the money twice since 2020 with 1 win. But, you look at some of the other ones, well, you could say, they all won 1 win. They've only have 1 win. She really hasn't been competitive in many races. So this is a horse that will probably take money again next time out. I don't necessarily need her. Now, this is the last race. And it's funny. Aaron and I were like, this is one of those races, no strong opinion. And here comes Mike himself with a strong opinion, and it paid off. Domineer goes gate to wire, never really in trouble. One can make the argument kind of stringing out the field towards the end of it, and you got 5-1. And again, we'll show some evidence of who listened yesterday, because it is important. It's not just about your grade on a test; it's about your process. And Mike gave you the process yesterday. How good was Domineer, and how happy were you that your opinion was spot on?
I like, we talked about this yesterday. I mean, I like the 6 a lot because I thought the setup was there for the 6. But when you're going 5.5, never leave the speed of the speed off. And so that's why I was only 2 deep here, and that was with the 6, so I thought was the best horse coming from off the pace. I didn't love that horse took so much money. I would have not bet the horse to win at 8-5, essentially what the horse goes off at. But Domineer got up by 6 lengths, running a 22 and change opening quarter last time, going 6 furlongs, and got caught in the last furlong of the race. If you're going 5.5 and you're able to do that, and you're able to get the lead and go slower, which is what happened here, she pulled off, and it was never in doubt, which was great. I mean, we'll take the bigger price in the pick 4 and walk home and walk to the window and cash the ticket. So pretty happy about that. But yeah, this was one of those that I felt pretty good, because if you listen back to yesterday, it's the 2 is the speed of the speed, the 6 is the best horse with the best setup. Hopefully we can get one of the 2 home. And honestly, like, I thought we were going to hit the exacta here, turning for home. 9 got in our way there, ended up nosing out the 6. But this was one of those races where look, just because the level isn't good, just because the horses aren't that good, doesn't mean you can't have an opinion, you can't make it pay. And I think that's where people really struggle sometimes, is that, look, going 2 deep in this race allows us to get home a $24 ticket, where we're 4 deep in the previous race, 4 deep in the race before that. Like, we had coverage in other races because we had opinions in this race. We took the logical 2 in the first race.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. When you have an opinion, no matter what the race is, that sets up your sequence. It really, really does. Especially when you're playing multi-race. If everyone has a $100 budget to play a pick 4, well, then your opinions don't need to be as strong. But a lot of people don't have that. And we were able to get the job done with a $24 ticket. I completely agree. And just to kind of show Sense a Million, goes off at that's 8-5. It says 3rd. Add those lengths up, folks. That's a well back 3rd, like well back. And then you look at kind of some of the horses that were maybe close early on. Treves, well off. Sammy's Town, I know, long shot, well off. Somebody really put this field away, and it was a really, really, I would make the argument and say this was the best performance of the sequence. I'm not going to go through the rest, but this was just what she was asked to do. She did it well. So those are that, but we do want to show, it's weird. I'm going to pull up your ticket real quick. I accidentally X'd it out by accident. So we're going to stall here for a little bit, but not only did you play your own ticket, which is obviously great. We encourage everyone to play the tickets that they say. At the same time, Mike wasn't the only one to cash yesterday. It's interesting, as I'm pulling yours up, we're going to show a few others. And real quick, Mike, you had the opportunity, that was yours. If we're going to talk through the other ones real quick and kind of walk me through, you played it just for 24 cents. But some other people were willing to do a little bit more. Look at this. This is a $2 pick 4, and this is the second time Jacob Lewis has won. Mike, whatever we're doing here, I guess we're doing something right.
Yeah, we had a couple people hit the pick 5. They asked who do we like in front of it. It said 510. So a $48 ticket brought home almost $900 there. Someone hit the pick 6 using the 5 as a single, and then this back at the end of the pick 4 in their own opinion in the race prior. $19.20 cashes over $1,000. So yeah, it's fun, man. It's great when look. We're not always right. Let's be honest here. Like you're going to lose more days than you're going to win, but man, it's a lot of fun when you can bring a $24 ticket home for $305 or a $96 ticket in this case for $1,200. So hopefully we can stay hot. And really, it's the process, and that's why I enjoyed yesterday because we talked about the 1 horse in the last, why that was a bad use. We talked about the 7 horse in the turf sprint, why that was one that I didn't believe in. And when the process plays out, that's when you're proud of those picks. That's when you're excited about it.
There's the pick 6. I made this joke yesterday between me, you, and Aaron. I was filling up my car for about $20. This kind gentleman here is bringing home 4 figures for 20 cents. Congratulations, Joe. I'm sorry. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but congratulations. $19.20. There's a single with the 5 there, only 2 deep in race 5. And he really pressed the 2 and 6. We're happy we were able to go gate to wire. Before we get to football, Mike, I want to give you your credit where it's due. You did play your own ticket. I was finally able to get that up. And here it is, folks. This is exactly what he gave out yesterday. Are you going to run home and remember this forever? No. But for $24, look at the return on investment. It's unbelievable what you're able to do with an opinion. And even if it comes in the worst race of all time, it could be quarter horses. You can be betting on billy goats. If you have an opinion on billy goats, stick with it. And there it was here. Mike played it for $24. This was available yesterday to you when he was on the show. He didn't add anything. He didn't change anything. And it's nice to see your opinion work out. Again, you might not remember this for the rest of your life. Mike has certainly had bigger cashes for sure. But nonetheless, look at that. $24, 305 return. I'm sure you were feeling nice yesterday.
Give me 12 to 1 all day. If you get 12 to 1 on any amount of money, it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So for all us folks that are trying to play these crazy sports parlays and get on all these, folks, it was right here for $24. Real quick, I don't know what's going on. If there's no Gulfstream update, I don't know what.
The changes just came out. So
okay,
let's run through football, and then we can jump off and do the changes.
Yeah, we're going to run through football real quick. I'm not even going to give my opinions because they don't mean anything. Packers, they're 6.5-point favorites on Saturday against the Rams. Do the Rams have any chance? How many points are they going to score?
So I'm going to go full contrarian here. I think the Rams can win this game. And I think that the line is actually really telling here. So 75% of the tickets were on the Packers -7. The line goes to 6.5, where 90% of the tickets are. And we're getting closer to 6 than we are 6.5, which tells you where all the big money is coming. The Packers defense specifically, or the Packers offense specifically, is a bad fit. The Rams defense specifically fits very well against the Packers offense. You have a shutdown corner that can cover Devontae Adams. If you want to double Devontae Adams and put your shutdown corner Ramsey on either Scantling, or you want to put him on Lazard, you're able to shut down their second option. Additionally, and this is interesting. So LaFleur comes from McVay. So LaFleur was literally the offensive coordinator under McVay. He knows exactly how to stop this offense. If you really want to get crazy about it, the Rams run a robber coverage, which specifically stops crossing routes, which is what the Packers do well. They run a tight line, which specifically stops zone runs, which is what the Packers do well. So everything the Rams do well on defense stops what the Packers do well on offense. Add that onto a defense on the Packers side that can't stop the run. I realize Goff has thumb, and that's my biggest issue. It's why I'm not going to go crazy on this game. But if I picked a side, I would pick the Rams, and I would sprinkle something on the Rams money line. I actually might play a money line parlay here, Rams Bucks, and see if we can get both dogs home in the NFC.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just forget it. I love the analysis. I completely agree. I would not. Ramsey does not travel. If you don't know that, Jalen Ramsey will not travel, so he might not see Devontae Adams the whole time. The last time we saw something similar to this, Richard Sherman, when he was on the Legion of Boom, he was staying in that situation too. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Jordy Nelson. It might have been Devontae Adams. I don't remember how long ago it was. It was a while ago, but Aaron Rodgers did not throw at him. I wouldn't be surprised if he says, look, whenever I can get Devontae without Ramsey, I'll give it a shot. If not, Marquez MVS, step up. Alan Lazard, step up. Aaron Jones, be ready to catch passes, and they're going to run the ball. I just look at LA and say, I don't know how many points they're going to be able to score. That's my biggest concern. I think the defense will hold up, and I think it'll be a lower scoring game, maybe 21-13, something in that range. I think the weather might be a factor, and the Packers know how to play in it.
Yeah,
Ravens.
The key matchup to watch to me is specifically Aaron Donald and the Packers center, who grades out as the best center by PFF. If they can single Aaron Donald, then the Rams are going to have a long day. If they need to double Aaron Donald, the Packers starting right tackle, it was the Colts starting right tackle last weekend. That's how decimated they are in injury at that position. They signed the guy who lost last week in the playoffs to start a tackle for them today. So that's a problem. If you can't give him help, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's never a good idea when you're trying to sign someone off the Colts practice squad, and that's the only reason he can play, because he wasn't signed to the 53-man roster, to block Aaron Donald. That's a problem. I don't know a lot about football. I might not be the football guru, but that is a problem. Let's go to the second game. I'm going to try to abstain as much as possible. Ravens are 2.5-point underdogs in Buffalo. Lamar says he's never played in a winter game, a snow game. Lamar, you might want to keep that one to yourself. But nonetheless, this kind of looks like a team that's really good up front in the trenches. Will play defense against a team that really wants to sling it around and use Josh Allen. Their running game's not strong. It kind of looks like a battle of philosophies here. How do you kind of see the Bills with limited fans? I believe it's 6,500 or 7,500. Bills Mafia, they'll probably show out as much as they can. Can the Bills get it done and keep this dream season alive?
Here's the thing. I believe in Brian Dable a lot. He's the offensive coordinator for the Bills. I think he's going to be the next head coach for the Chargers, and he deserves to be a head coach. He is the reason why Josh Allen has made this leap in year 3, year 2, whatever it is now. One of the Ravens' struggles is when teams go 4 wide. They love to blitz. Josh Allen's very good against the blitz. I think this game really comes down to who gets out fast. I have no interest in Lamar Jackson trying to come back, so I'm not going to play this game before the start of the game. I'm going to play this game in the first or second quarter. If the Bills jump out to a lead, I'll be playing the Bills minus whatever the points are. If the Ravens jump out to a lead, I'm looking toward playing the Ravens. I do think that the Bills team total over is probably something you can look at if you want to pregame, just because they're going to spread it out. They don't run the ball very well. And Josh Allen against blitzing defenses is dangerous. I mean, Miami Dolphins are one of I think the 4th highest blitz rate in the NFL. Josh Allen owned them twice. And they were a very good defense. Like, they have Xavier Howard. They've got a lot of weapons on the outside. I think this could be a really, really tough matchup for the secondary of the Ravens. That being said, it's a really tough matchup for the Buffalo Bills, who can't stop the run at all, and that's what the Ravens want to do. So, but like to me though, and this is the reason why I would lean toward Buffalo. If you want to stop the run, put more people in the box, right? If you want to stop the pass, it's not that easy. You can't put more defensive backs out there, like especially if you're a blitzing team. So the way that Buffalo can fix their problem, fix their issue, is much simpler than the way that the Ravens try and fix their issue. And so because of that, I would lean toward going toward the Bills over the Ravens, especially at 2.5 when it's a field goal. But I know, for instance, FanDuel is building quite a position at Ravens plus 2.5. So the sports books like the Ravens plus 2.5. That matters to you. Yeah,
no, and I think it's important. Horse racing is not necessarily it's about your opinion, obviously, but you're playing against each other. You're not playing against the institution or the book or however you want to look at it, the online site, however you want to call it. That's what you're doing in sports. So it's a lot of, to your point, you talk about ticket structures. If someone's doing something at 70%, more times than not, the books are right. That's why they're in business. You might want to be on the 30%. In horse racing, that's not necessarily the case. You're not playing against Gulfstream Park or Aqueduct. You're playing against people. You're playing against other people's opinions. So I think it's important to know. It's always important what the dollar amount coming in is and the ticket structure. Those are two different things. They tend to stay the same, but you never know. Sometimes, for example, we don't have anything here, but the Packers will take money, especially big money, not necessarily the ticket structure, but big money because people like the Packers, they're America's team, Lambeau, the Chiefs heads, all that crazy nonsense. The one thing I would say is, sorry, Mike, what were you saying?
If that line doesn't go to 7, it tells you that the sports books love the Rams. Because all the public money is going to come in on the Packers there. I
completely agree. And the minute it gets to 7, you'll see sharps attacking that immediately, and it'll go right back. It'll go right back to 6.5 within 30 seconds. That's a good point. Real quick before we move on to the games, I'll just say the trenches will be won by Baltimore. It's a guarantee. The trenches will be won, and we saw what Indy can do, and their run game's not nearly as strong. If the Ravens are going to win, I say they run for at least 300 yards. And I don't want to sit here and don't tell me Lamar Jackson's not going to throw for 200. We know that already. We understand that. Don't tell me that he's got to do X, Y, and Z. The minute they've let him run like he did last year, they haven't lost a game. So just keep that in mind. I do agree the issue that Baltimore has is tougher to fix. The one point I will make, there's no Devontae Adams. There's no big wide receiver. I love Stephon Diggs. I had him on my fantasy team.
Leading receiver in the NFL.
he arguably, I would say he's the second best wide receiver to Devontae Adams this year.
I would agree with that, but the stats say that the yards say that he's number one. But I agree with you. I don't think he's as talented.
Yeah, and I'll make the case that I'll give you some other ones as well. I personally prefer DeAndre Hopkins, but we don't need to get into a wide receiver conversation here. I just think he's really good, but a lot of those other wide receivers are very, very similar. And they will press. I guarantee you they will blitz and they will press. Cole Beasley, John Brown, Dawson Knox. Do not expect to get off the line, even though Allen has an arm. They will connect on a few big plays. Mahomes did it to him, and I think Allen can do it again. I just think, again, I'll be biased. I love the Ravens in this spot. They've always been better as underdogs. I've talked about that for years. You never want them as a favorite. You will get them as an underdog. All right.
Watch out for Gabe Davis props. That's the receiver I think gets loose from the Bills. I think it's Gabe Davis over 28.5. I like that quite a bit.
I agree. You'll probably see Marcus Peters on Diggs or Marlon Humphrey on Diggs. The other one will probably get John Smokey. You will see Gabe Davis in the slot a lot, and Gabe Davis will not catch 5-yard passes. Gabe Davis is an explosive guy. He might put your over receiving yard props over before the second quarter if that's the way the Ravens
one pass. He's going to get the fourth cornerback.
Yeah,
one pass.
Yeah,
and Allen throws deep. So to me, it all kind of lines up that his over prop is a solid play.
I completely agree. Diggs is a little bit death by 1,000 cuts. Gabe Davis can do it immediately. That's important to note. Let's get to the Sunday game real quick. Browns and Chiefs. This line sits at 10, which would indicate to me I want the Browns. The minute I get 9.5, I'll go to the Chiefs. I'm not going to say which way I'm going quite yet, but can Cleveland actually not only cover but win this game, or is their magic going to run out?
I don't see how they win. I can see them covering. I could see that a lot of different ways. My concern here is, look, they are starting to have some struggles on the offensive line from a health perspective, and they're going to need to run the ball to be able to control the clock and beat the Chiefs here. I think they can effectively run the ball, but if they have one or two drives where they can't, I don't see how they're going. Look, Big Ben in his state that he is currently in was moving the ball up and down the field if he didn't throw 4 or 5 picks, whatever it was. Mahomes isn't going to throw 4 or 5 picks. And their secondary is not good. 2 of their corners are coming back from injury, but neither of them are 100%. And their safeties are, for lack of a better term, trash. So I'm really interested to see how you're going to possibly stop the deep ball here. I think Mahomes goes nuts. I like the team total for the Chiefs, specifically in the first half, because I'm worried they might slow it down in the second half. You have Andy Reid off a bye where he's very good. This is essentially a double bye. And one of my favorite stories here, so I don't know if you know this, but when Patrick Mahomes was went to his Texas Tech college visit, you know who hosted him? Baker Mayfield. Baker took him out for dinner, got him to commit to Texas Tech, and then left in the offseason. When they played each other, the Texas Tech team wore T-shirts that said "traitor" on them. And then Mahomes proceeded to have one of his best games of his career. Both of them had great games, but Mahomes had one of his best of his career. I think you're going to get a fired up Mahomes. I don't think the Chiefs start out slow because I think they learned their lesson from last year. I think they look at that and they say, look, we don't want to do that again. We don't want to start slow like we did against the Texans. We don't want to start slow again like we did against the Titans. I think you're going to see a different type of Chiefs offense, especially against a bad secondary. I could see this game, like the over's already been bet up over through the key number of 55, through the key number of 57. I'm not interested in playing the totals. I do like the team total for the Chiefs because I do think they put up quite a few points, especially in the first half. I would take the Chiefs in the first half, or I'd take the Chiefs team total. I don't love the 10 for the game. I don't really love it for either side because I mean, you really want Baker down 17 in the shotgun trying to bring you back under that 10 number? Like, he's not the best backdoor guy ever.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's interesting you bring up the first half. I'll already, real quick, unfortunately, we did go through our Gulfstream picks already. We started early. But my ticket's down below. Magic's ticket, who was on, he had to run, is on below. But we brought We brought Mike on himself to talk football, Fairground. So if you missed that, you can rewatch it later on. There's plenty of time. Scratches just came out, so you didn't really miss too much when you're watching the live stream. Real quick, it's interesting. I would almost want the Chiefs potentially in the second half. And I'll make this case. Forget about the Browns winning. I just threw that out there to try to be cute. I don't think they're winning at all. I think the Steelers gave them the game. If they played the Steelers again, I think they would lose, to be honest with you. Maybe not the spread necessarily, but I think they would lose. I don't maybe would still cover.
You don't think they're going to snap the ball over their head in the first play of the game again?
Yeah, it was. You know what? It's one of those games where it's like, all right, here we go. And in my book, it was over. The minute that happens, they're not focused. It's not over. Mike Tomlin's always good as a dog, never good as a favorite. Keep that in mind. He won't get fired because the Steelers don't fire coaches, and they won't let Ben go because they owe him too much money. Nonetheless, I look at Cleveland here and I say they have the momentum. This reminds me of that Baltimore team when Joe Flacco was quarterback with Anquan Boldin a few years ago. And the case was they're playing for Ray Lewis. They want to put him out on a big note there. I just look at the Chiefs and say they've struggled lately. If they're going to beat me by double digits when they haven't done so in months, they can go for it. I would take the Chiefs in the second half just because I think they'll start a touch slow. But if you're in the camp of they're ready for the playoffs, I almost will make the argument to your point. They're more alert and more ready to go because the Browns won. So they might not take them lightly. And they have championship pedigree. That's important to know. They know what it's like to win. They have Mahomes, and they have the most talented quarterback with one of the best head coaches. Real quick, last game, Bucs Saints. This is arguably, forget the Raven game from my end. I think this is the most interesting game. Can the Saints beat the Tom Brady 3 times in a season? It's one of the hardest things to do.
It is, and look, it's interesting because the first matchup they played week 1, and the Saints won by 11, and it was Brady's first game. You didn't have Brown. The second game, they're missing their star linebacker Davis. They're missing their star offensive lineman whose name I can't pronounce. They're both back for this game, so it's one of those spots where I don't think we've actually seen these teams face up at full strength either time. We now have Thomas back, we have Kamara back, we have Breeze back for the first time in a while for the Saints as well. They got healthy toward the end of the year. So a really interesting matchup. I don't take too much into the 2 losses because I think that you're seeing different teams. I think, Antonio Brown alone is now a 1C receiver, which I think makes the Bucs a lot more dangerous. And you see Brady getting the ball out much quicker, which means he's trusting his receivers more, which is a great sign against a team that likes to blitz. So for me, there's a lot of reasons why you kind of point over here toward the Bucs. I think -3 +3 is the correct number. I would probably play Bucs money line versus playing +3 because I think if the Bucs show up, I think they're as good as anybody left in the NFC, and so I'm interested in taking some Bucs money line here. And like I said, I think I'll probably play Rams money line, Bucs money line, see if we can get a big parlay home for cheap and get 2 big dogs home because I think that both favorites are vulnerable here in this spot. I wouldn't be shocked if we're in Tampa for NFC Sunday.
Yeah, no, that would be great. And I don't think, tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's ever been a Super Bowl team to host from that area. I think this would be the first time, right? If the Bucs can get there, wouldn't this be the first time?
I think so. I think Miami and New Orleans both had shots at it, and neither could get the job done. So I think this would be the first time they hosted. I'm not sure they can make the Super Bowl. Actually, you know what? I probably would take them over the Rams. So if they get that draw, if they end up playing in the NFC title game in Tampa, then I'm guessing that they're able to do it. But the Giants might have actually against the Pats. That might have been one time it happened. But yeah, for me, look, I think this is going to be a really entertaining game. I may not even bet the game, to be honest with you. This one's, I think the 3 line, like I said, is correct, and I think this is going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, again, I don't know if I'll play it either, but I will say good luck to anyone who wants to doubt Tom Brady losing to a team 3 times in a row. And Drew Brees, this is his last season. I guess you can make the case they're playing for him. I just look at a Bucs team. I always say who scores quicker, who scores easier. Right now, the Bucs are scoring easier and they're scoring quicker. The Saints will try to replicate what they did the first time around. The Bucs will be the ones that try to change and make improvements in my book. So real quick, Mike, I'll sum up your picks. Tell me if I'm wrong. You're gonna take the Rams with the spread and throw them in a money line parlay with the Bucs. You would look at the Bills, 2.5-point favorite. I think that's key. If it goes to 3, maybe things would be different. The Chiefs, you're looking at a first half, kind of put the game away. Just end it early. If it's 21-7, 24-10, just early, get that out of the way. And then the Bucs, a slight lean on the Bucs in that money line parlay. Maybe if you're having a nice weekend, you'll put a little bit on the Bucs 3. That's where it sits at now. If you get a 3.5, I'm sure you'll be the first one to take 3.5. And here we go. We have confirmation. No team has ever played on the Super Bowl field. Real quick tonight, will you be playing Sam Houston?
If I get a chance to look at it, the problem with Sam Houston is that because I don't do the sound bombs for it or we don't do the podcast for it, it's all about how the day goes. And if I get a chance to look at it, I'll definitely play it. If I finish the card before the first race, I'll throw something up, but I have no clue if I'm going to be able to. First race is Arabian, so I may not even look at that race, to be honest with you, just to save some time. For me, the pick six is going to be the thing at Sam Houston. That's the play here. 50-cent pick six, 12% takeout, and you're going to have a carryover a lot of nights because you're getting about 12 to 15K in the pool. And it's hard to get to some of the long shots without a ticket that's affordable in a 12 to 15K pool. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out moving forward.
Yeah, no. So I don't know if we'll be on live. I know you guys were on live last week. We probably won't be this week. But take a look at Mike's social media, his Twitter. If he is playing, he will definitely post it. He always does for Sam Houston. He's not shy about sharing it and trying to get everyone involved. And that's what we're trying to do here. Without further ado, guys, thank you for coming on today. It was great, Mike, having you on for the second half. Magic's ticket is at the bottom. He was on like 7:30 this morning, his time. So thank you, Magic, for coming on. Monday, we will be on live. Gulfstream, I don't believe, is running, but Aqueduct and Santa Anita is. So either me or Aaron, me and Mike, maybe everyone, who knows? We're going to figure it out, but we will be on Monday. It's a holiday, so please tune in then. More importantly, stay happy, stay safe, and let's try to cash some tickets here as we kick off a